So it has been 10 years since I was on the reality show MasterChef. And I figure if I'm ever going to have something to say about it, now would be the time. I want to talk about what that experience was like, but mostly what it did for me, how it changed my perception of myself and who I am and who I want to be. I'm not really going to talk about anybody on the show. I'm not going to tell you any of that because that's not what this is about. But also, yeah, I'm kind of afraid of the legality of that. And I'm going to avoid that entirely. I'm going to tell you where I was at in life when I began that journey and where I'm at today, 10 years later, how that experience affected me and how it had an impact on my life. So, where was I 10 years ago? Well, I was working a job that was, by all means, a great job. I had a career in game development, and I was very fortunate. I was paid very well, and I'm truly grateful for that time in my life. It was a necessary time for me in my life that gave me a lot of great relationships and gave me a great experience, but I knew it wasn't right for me. I knew that the desk job and the corporate life wasn't right for me. I wanted to get out of that, and I didn't really know how because I didn't necessarily have the skills, whether it was the competency or the skills in myself to believe in myself or apply myself in other aspects of my life. I didn't know how to break free, so I felt kind of trapped. What I did know is I loved coming home every night, stopping by the grocery store, coming home and trying new recipes and cooking. That felt right. And I felt a need to chase that somehow. I was watching round after round of layoffs happen at in the corporate environment, and I just kind of kept feeling like I was next. And what on earth was I going to do with my life if that happened to me? So I was frantically trying to find an escape route, whether that was the next company that I worked for or something else entirely. That's when MasterChef came into my life. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. Looking back at who I was in life at that time, again, I felt kind of trapped and I kind of felt like I had no idea how I was going to get to that next stage of life. And I was pretty entitled and maybe a little, maybe a lot delusional. I thought I could go on this show and with the limited amount of skills I had, win $250,000. And that would get me everything I needed. I also had this kind of notion that if somebody saw me on TV, they'd be like, that guy, give him a shot, give him a TV show, give him a fortune, right? I was really entitled and I just believed like, oh, all I got to do is go on this show and I'm going to be set. That is not what happened. I didn't win if you watched the show, and I was terrified when the experience ended. First of all, I thought I might just be able to walk back to my job, but under the circumstances that I quit, I had a little bit of vacation time saved up and I cashed that in to go participate in this show. And when that vacation time was up, but I was still a contestant on the show, I had to make a decision. Quit the show or quit the job. I quit the job. And I didn't do it professionally. I just made a phone call and was like, I'm out because I'm on a TV show. And when I got off the show, I needed to figure something else out. So I figured out how to start cooking for a living. It was the first time that I was going to do something like that. I had no idea where to start. I walked through my neighborhood and walked into kitchens with no kind of resume or experience in that line of work. And that's when I met Chef Mike. He brought me into his kitchen and I saw people using knives with the fluidity and finesse that I had seen Chef Ramsay using. And I was like, whoa, This is the real deal. These folks are doing it. These men and women are doing this thing. It was exciting. It was scary, but it was exciting. And what Chef Mike told me was, he said, look, you got no experience, but if you're willing to learn, I will teach you. I was willing to learn. I was also desperate. I didn't know what else to do. So I was like, yeah, Chef Mike, I'll learn. So he brought me back into the kitchen. I started that day. And that's kind of one of the amazing things about if you want to get into that line of work, if you want to be a chef, bro, you can go do it right now. Do you own a decent knife? Everybody always asks me what they need to start. Get yourself a good knife, a steel, and a sharpening stone. Spend about $100 to $150 on a good piece of steel. Go to work. So he brings me back into the kitchen and I'm like, oh, sick. I'm going to be making foie gras and crudo, right? I'm going to be making like dishes I can put up on Instagram. No, you're going to be dicing and brunoising shallots a lot. You're going to be cutting a lot of shallots. And that's where I started. I started at the bottom, breaking down vegetables with none of the proficiency that the other cooks were doing, right? I was green. One of the first things I remember is Chef Mike grabbing my hand and showing me how to hold my knife properly, which I wasn't even doing. What I was doing, what I see a lot of people do, is hold it like a motorcycle handle, just kind of wrap their hand around it. Put your index finger right here and put your thumb right here. So you're kind of pinching the blade and then wrap your other 3 fingers around it. There you go. That's how you hold a knife. That's going to give you a lot more control. Okay? Now you know. This is a Wusthof, by the way. I love my Wusthof. Sometimes I also use 2 fingers. Just kind of depends. Kind of depends what you're in the mood for and how you're feeling, but now you know. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm on TV holding a knife right now in front of the world, and I'm not doing it properly. If I don't know that, what else don't I know? And this is where my life really changes, because what I didn't know is who I am. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I was not in touch with my feelings. I was not in touch with my goals or aspirations or anything in my life. That experience of being on TV, I'm going to use a strong word here, but it was traumatic. It was traumatic, but ultimately for the good. Because I don't know if you've ever had somebody follow you around with a camera all day in a stressful environment. They're going to capture you. Reality TV, although I have my thoughts about what happens behind that fourth wall, they capture some real things, because if you're thrust into a stressful environment and you may not have the emotional intelligence that you do later in life, you're going to behave, you're going to react in situations in a real way. And what I saw in myself, I had never heard how I talked to people, how I moved, how I held myself, how I stood. I got to see myself, literally see myself. And it was a terrifying experience because I didn't know I sounded like that. I didn't know I treated people like that. I didn't know I moved like that. I didn't know who I was. So the experience of going into the kitchen is where I really get to begin to discover myself. When I was in that corporate environment, it was a place I could hide. Work was not always go, go, go. There's a lot of downtime. And I could walk out for a 2-hour lunch break and nobody would care or nobody would notice. I could put whiskey in my coffee in the morning and nobody would care or nobody would notice. And I could go get high in the parking lot and nobody would notice. Or I didn't think they noticed, but I was kind of coasting by. And I felt that inside. I felt this deep sense of like, I'm not doing my best. I'm not growing. I'm not becoming who I'm really supposed to be in this life. I'm not making the most out of my time on this planet. And I felt like I was failing myself. And I felt like I was failing the people in my life that I loved and I cared about. That all ends or begins to fade when I start cooking with Mike and Logan and Rick and the dishwasher Raul, who was this total character, straight out of Chuckawalla State Penitentiary. Amazing character. You get stories in the kitchen, right? Like I have stories for the rest of my life about that experience that I'll never forget. So I start working on the garde manger station. That's salads, cold dishes, easy stuff that doesn't require a lot of technicality or cooking. You just kind of assemble things. And I saw even on that station, I was having a hard time holding my own. These men and women in the kitchen were running laps around me. And I was stressed. I was anxious. I thought I was going to lose that job. I would walk into the walk-in refrigerator and break down and cry because I felt like I'm not good enough for this. I'm not cut out for this. Making the same dish over and over again, night after night after night, I started putting these plates up with a sense of confidence, with a sense of pride. I started feeling like I said I was going to do this thing and I'm doing it and I'm getting better at it. This is one of the first times in my life where I start to feel a real sense of development, of growth, of character, because as I'm putting out a plate again and again and again and again, it's getting tighter, it's getting cleaner, it's getting more efficient each time. I'm starting to feel more confident in who I am in this kitchen environment. I'm starting to feel like I really add value. I'm starting to feel like maybe this wasn't such a crazy decision. I couldn't hide in Chef Mike and Logan's kitchen because it's a small environment and I'm not going to be able to come in hungover. I'm not going to be able to come to work high. Let me tell you something. I went on that show and I told myself that I was going to be on my best behavior because people are going to see this. The people I love and care about, my family, my friends, they're going to see this. I want to make people proud. I want to make myself proud. And I told myself I wasn't going to drink while I was on the show. I was hungover on set probably every day. I was high on set many times. And I think probably people know this and they've got to work around this difficult person, this entitled person. And it's where I really begin to see that I've got a problem with drinking and a problem with my behavior that I couldn't address on my own, that my own willpower couldn't solve. And the kitchen is the first place that I work where I'm not going to be able to continue that lifestyle anymore. I'm not going to be able to continue behaving that way. Because if I show up to the kitchen hungover, I can't hide. It's going to be obvious. I'm going to perform poorly. I'm going to get burned. I'm going to get hurt. And that's going to hurt my team. It's going to hurt my self-esteem. I knew I had to change once I got into the kitchen. I followed Mike to the next restaurant he opened because his career was advancing and he got a new restaurant with more execution required in the dishes. It was a bigger environment with more stations. And again, I kind of felt like I was thrust into the deep end. And again, though, I knew that if I could keep putting these plates up night after night, in a kitchen, it's crazy. You might make the same dish 50 times in a night. So in a week or 2 weeks, you could have made the same dish 1,000 or more times. You get proficient. It gets boring. It gets old. But you get proficient because you're putting in reps. And I saw myself grow and get better again. I struggled. I was struggling to keep up again, but I also had nights where I just felt like I was really able to accomplish something. And it started to show me what I know now is that life is about the reps you put in. It's not about going on a reality TV show and throwing this Hail Mary pass to win $250,000, winning the lottery essentially, and just turning your life around 180 overnight. It's not about that. It's about this gradual grind, this slow progression, putting in the reps every day, making that dish thousands of times until you can do it in your sleep. And I would say that since that job, since that restaurant experience, I look at my life that way. that I'm just going to be putting in these reps over and over again for the things I want and the things I care about. Whether that's fitness or diet or the skills that I care about, that I care to cultivate, writing songs, being a creator. It's about the process again and again and again. And it's just slowly getting better at things. I worked a station at this restaurant that was a steel grill with an open flame that you're chucking wood into all night long, and you're standing just a foot and a half away from that open flame that's burning at 800 degrees. You walk over to your station, or I guess you just turn around to get your mise en place ready to put on the grill, and you feel these flames licking at your back. You're sweating. You're losing weight. I was like 30 or 40 pounds lighter when I was working that job, all right? You get up on this grill and you flip steaks and chops and fish, and you got to do it fast, because if you stay close to that grill for too long, you catch on fire. I'm not exaggerating. You have to wear, you got your 2 shirts on and an apron and towels dangling so that you can protect yourself from the extreme heat. If you stay too close to the grill for too long, on multiple occasions, those towels would catch fire. It was intense. It was a really hard job. I pity whoever's working that station right now. If you're watching this video and you're on that station, stay hydrated, my friend. But I did that for 9 months. And I look at this picture of myself from time to time, and I remember that I did that I stood next to that fire night after night after night. And whatever I'm going through in life or whatever I'm going for, I remember that I was able to do that. And if I could do that, if I could stand next to that flame night after night working for shit money, I can do whatever I'm doing right now. So it was this path that I got to go on that has enabled me, that has given me confidence, that has given me courage. If I could do that, I could do just about anything. That's how I feel. This line of work began to reveal to me who I was, what I struggled with. It showed me how emotional I could get during the course of a service. Now, there were some nights where we were putting up 250 covers or more, and I felt like I was living the life that Bourdain wrote about in Kitchen Confidential. There were other days where I'm trying to put up a plate and I'm thinking about something that I'm going through in my personal life, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling to focus on the work that's in front of me and be present in the moment. But the reality for a guy like me who participated in a reality TV show is that I was living in a fantasy world. I was dealing with entitlement, not knowing who I was, and kind of expecting everything to just turn around for me in an instant without having to deal with all of the things that were in front of me, all of the challenges. Today, the things I really, really care about are spiritual growth, which involves loving myself and having a respect for myself, cultivating healthy relationships, having a sense of peace and love in my heart, knowing that I'm doing my best every day, taking care of myself and being good to myself so that I'm not living with a sense of guilt or shame like I used to. I've been able to get sober, to get in much better shape. I want to give myself a little bit of credit and say I'm proud of myself. And a lot of that stuff began with taking on this challenging line of work in kitchens. And that began with participating in a reality television show that revealed to me who I was and kind of forced me to look at myself. Today, I really know what I want out of life. I have a plan in place that I'm pursuing day at a time, putting in the reps to get there. I know the things that I value and that I'm chasing and what I want, and I know what I don't want. And that's all come through this long process of hard work and mistakes and kind of participating in things I was afraid to participate in. You can do crazy things like going on a reality TV show or leaving your well paying career to go work in a kitchen for much, much less money. Challenging things are where it's at. That's where the growth and that's where the development happens. I've learned that that is the kind of work I really value. I like being on my feet. I like working with my hands. I like being in some sort of service capacity where I'm doing something that ultimately benefits somebody else. That's fulfilling. And I feel alive when I'm doing something that's kind of brutal or challenging or tough. I think one of the things I'm omitting here is that the whole experience was humbling. And again in my life, I'm continually, repeatedly humbled. And that's a very valuable lesson for me to learn. I feel pretty courageous today. Uh, would I ever do something like that again? No chance. I don't think so. I don't think so. But it would be very different, right? I don't think I would have to feel the need to perform, which is something I really felt back then. I really felt this need to try to present a persona, wear this mask so that I could be perceived a certain way. And that's kind of how I was making my way through life. I was performing in work and in relationships because I wanted people to like me and receive me well. So I was always trying to present what I thought would accomplish that. In other words, being, manipulative. And I don't really feel like I carry myself through life that way anymore. I feel like I can be much more authentic and just okay with myself. And it has taken what it has taken to get there. But that's ultimately one of the most rewarding things about this whole experience of being able to see myself and become aware of my behaviors and become aware of my flaws is that I could put in the reps and begin to outgrow those things. For the rest of my life, I'm going to be able to think about that show and about working on that grill in front of that open flame and know that I got through that and realize like I could probably get through whatever life is going to throw at me next. The whole thing has instilled me with a sense of who I am. It showed me, it earned me self-awareness. It earned me the ability to know that I can be courageous, which is acting in the face of fear. I'm always afraid. I always have anxiety heading towards every day, but I know I can show up and get through really difficult stuff. And it's taken what it's taken. I'm sure there's a lot more I could say about the experience, but I'll sum it up by saying if there's something you're afraid to do, just do it. And it may be the cringiest thing you've ever participated in your whole life. And there may be pictures of you on the internet like this that you'll have to deal with your whole life. But you will learn from the experience. You can outgrow your mistakes. Just take the risk, take the leap. It's going to be okay. If you want to be a chef, go work in a kitchen. Go work in a kitchen today. I know for the rest of my life, I can take my bag of knives, I can move anywhere in the world, and I can find a job. Personally, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to work in a kitchen environment again. I did that. I'm so happy I did. I learned so much. My hat's off to the men and women in that industry. It's hard work. It's hard for a lot of reasons. But it has given me courage to take on the next challenge in my life. And that's more of what I want in life. I want skills and competency that I can pick up and move and go anywhere and earn a living and do fulfilling work. It's really showed me what I like. And now I can really narrow my vision and chase those kinds of work that I want to do. And I just wouldn't have gotten there otherwise. So overall, I'm going to look back on the whole thing as a positive and humbling experience that brought me self-awareness. And I know I said I wasn't going to say anything negative, but that show pays less than minimum wage to its contestants.